Sorry.
I'm curious, Morag, how self-sufficient is this community in terms of food, construction materials, I don't know, clothing?
Yeah.
If I don't know if you measure it in some
No, we
way.
don't measure it, and it's not. And I think the thing that it could be in terms of food, but being a Western country, um, I don't think the urgency is there yet to produce all the food that you need. But what we noticed in the COVID times was that because you can't, there's not a rule that says to live here you have to grow all your food. And the guidelines are there to say, look, here's the space and here's some seeds, and if you'd like to. So you can't make, and there's some people who are 80 or 90 and they just don't have the capacity to grow. There's other people who are like working full time to try and, pay for the building of their house. So there's like a spread of people as well who have different capacities to do things. But there's like my house is surrounded by a food forest. So I can just walk out and just grab a whole lot of different things. But and there's more than enough for me, so I can share what I've got. But not everyone would necessarily have that. So what I'm saying is that not everyone grows everything. So I might have the avocados or the citrus, and someone else might have some vegetables and salad greens, and someone else might be the beekeeper. And we have a little mini dairy, which is every couple of weeks it's your turn to go and milk the cows, and then you can get some milk and make your own cheeses. But you don't have to be part of that. So it's all very much like an opt-in kind of situation. And we also really particularly wanted to be part of the local community economy, that what I was starting to talk about before in Mullaney. So to be part of our bioregion. And so there's a farm that's outside of Crystal Waters. So on Friday, he's got like beautiful market gardens across all the river flats, just on the other side of our river here. So on Fridays, people will pop across to there, or on our market days, he'll come and bring his food there. So there's an exchange there. Then there's Mullaney Town has a little bulk foods cooperative. And so that's supporting that. And they try and bring things as locally as possible and do all the ethical choices. And then, so there's a sense of we grow what we can where we are, and then we look who's growing in the neighborhood, and then bulk foods, like we can't grow grains or anything here, so we get them from the local food cooperative. So there's a sense of being aware of your food system and trying to diminish the footprint of your food system, but not trying to be self-sufficient and isolated. It's about being part of a sort of more of a bi-regional approach. And in terms of clothes, there's an enormous amount of clothes exchange going on. So there's a little cafe that's down at the bottom. So we have a wood-fired organic um, sourdough bakery down at the village, and then a little cafe that they get local food, they cook it up, and so that's a gathering spot for people every day to go down there and meet. And there's a rack, and so you can hang up clothes that you've had enough of, or take off one, and there's like book swaps and sort of things like that that go on. Not saying that people grow their food, but there's a lot of mending. There's a group of people who on a Wednesday will say, okay, come on down, we're doing a stitch and knit thing. So if you're into that crafting thing, fixing, making, mending, then go down for that. And you can share the resources. There's other people who've collected wool and have carded it and spin it, but you don't have to. Like for me, at my point in my life, I'm more in the education and reaching out to the world. But when I had little kids, they're now 11, 17, and 18. But when they were little, I was far more in that sort of, okay, let's do local crafty things. Now I'm in sort of, international education. And so you have different waves in your life. And that's what I actually really appreciate about this place. You don't have to sit there and do the mending. There'll be someone else who might be able to help you with that. Or you don't have to, you know, go down to the market garden for one day a week to do it. There is this range of experiences of how you can engage. But the basic setup means that you have this sort of diminished energy need. You collect all your water, deal with all your waste, grow as much food as you can, swap and share what you can. and tending to the rewilding of a place and sharing out the story of the possibilities of what that could be like from here and connecting with the bioregion, supporting local cooperatives. We have a community cooperative that set up the local bank, that set up a local artist cooperative, that's set up a food cooperative. There was catering cooperatives. So Maleni was one of the biggest cooperative towns outside of Mondragon in Spain that used the cooperative model to revitalize after the dairying industry in this area fell out because the deregulation of dairying meant that the whole place just pretty much collapsed and there was empty shops everywhere. So it was the community through these cooperatives that revitalized. But it's really hard to see now because it became such a popular place with people coming up because it was so different and interesting that now all these other shops have come in. But the co-ops are still in and amongst all the cafes and the knick-knacky, antique shops that are starting to sort of filter in. But it's still
The,
a great place. And you walk down the street and the kids always go, Mum, you always take so long to get down the street. It's because like you talk to everyone knows who you are, and the kids, and everyone knows who the kids are as well, which is really nice.
the reason I asked about self-sufficiency or self-reliance is because one of the way the extractivist global system works, and it has been working at least since European imperialism spread 500 or so, I guess, or 600 years ago, was by taking away or trying to destroy communities in a way where they would lose their self-reliance, right? And one way to do that is by taking away the commons. Another way to do that is to take away their access to ecological resources. So it seems to me that a community being able to be self-reliant, maybe not self-sufficient in this day and age, because we have some technologies that we rely on, like transport and internet and phones and things, but self-sufficiency is one way to ensure that the fossil fuel-based economies, global economies that exist, uh, don't affect you in as large a way as they do for many people
So,
around the world
just on the
today. So
build.
that's why I asked.
Yeah. And, the commons is a really important piece of that. And, so there's a common space for a farm. There's common space for woodlot. So there is a woodlot, a number of woodlots here. So I've got a chicken pen that I'm about to rebuild out here. And so we can go and talk to the people who manage the woodlot and say, we're looking for some timber about this size. What have you got? They'll say, all right, come back tomorrow. And they'll have got the timber down on the side of the road and so that's on the commons. We're not going to take it from the wild spaces. The wild spaces are wild spaces. They're non-negotiable. We don't go in and we don't chop anything there. But in the managed spaces, so that like permaculture has these sort of zones, like zone 0 is your house zone, and the zone 1 is your kitchen garden. You do as much as you possibly can there. And then zone 2 is your food forest. And then zone 3 is your animal farm zone. Zone 4 is your harvest forest. And zone 5 is wilderness. And the idea is to kind of try to bring as much of your impact as small as possible to leave as much for wilderness, but then also allow the wilderness to flow through your space. So, for example, there's no fences or anything around here, so the kangaroos just can pass through. But in terms of meeting our needs, yeah, there's timber. Like also there was a all of the bench tops and the veranda rails and posts and everything are from the local forests here. So when we were building, we were looking around and there was a few trees that had to come down because of different reasons. And so we sort of said, oh yes, we were interested in that timber. And then there was a local sawmill that came in and trimmed it up and we stored it underneath some covering to sort of cure it for a while until we were ready to use it. So having common space is like it's a phenomenal thing, and it gives you that opportunity. It's like a spaciousness of yeah, shared care over being out, like like yeah, to have beehives up in there, for example. Like it's the old commons have been so enclosed, and by recreating space. So this is one of the things that I'm really fascinated. Like, okay, so crystal waters is a particular thing in a particular rural context, but how do you take the lessons from crystal waters and adapt it in to maybe a suburban context where most people in Americas and Australia are actually living? And there's a lot of new developments that are happening. And there's some really great examples where you actually, before you start chopping up the land for putting in all your little houses, you look at the whole landscape and say, okay, so the best agricultural land on this site is here. So let's put a farm in this spot. And where is all the water system coming from around the land that we can redirect into there? So we're not having to pump water into the farms. How is it like, where are all the nutrients from? So all the houses, we collect all the nutrients from all the houses to go down the farm. So you get these sort of closed loop systems, these sort of natural feedback cycles. And then there's food right there for people to be able to go and access. If they can't afford to buy the food, they can go down and maybe help for a couple of days or get some, community care support from other people to do that. So this local food, like a community farm, within a development. And so that could be retrofitted in some way, or better still, put right and start. There's so many developments that are happening still right now as we speak that this could be instituted in. And it doesn't have to be an eco village. It just is common sense living is what it is. And, back to what my dad said, gosh, this stuff just makes common sense. He was a surveyor, he's brought up in engineering and scientific thinking, and he just said, this makes good common sense. Like it diminishes transportation. It means that food is right there. It reduces our waste. We don't have to pump stuff backwards and forwards. We're not losing the freshness of the food. So, like from social, economic, and environmental perspectives, it just makes sense.